Sherman Krancer with Microsoft. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we got a great show ahead of us today. We're going to be talking about the power of digital transformation and prepping for the future. We are proud to present this particular production in concert with the Small Business Administration of Santa Ana, as well as the Small Business Administration of New York. Thank you so much for your support in this, and we really are proud to provide a great way to learn about the latest and greatest technology concepts sans commercialization. So I think we got a great show today. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and put up my contact information. My name is Sherman Krancer. I'm the Senior Partner Channel Development Manager for the Western United States. And you can reach me at skrancer@microsoft.com or Twitter, at Sherman Krancer. The other way that I connect with a lot of the members of the SBA is through LinkedIn. So if you'd like to go ahead and send me a LinkedIn invitation, I would be thrilled and delighted to be able to accept your invitation. All right, so let's get into the agenda today. The power of digital transformation and prepping for the future, it's been out a lot, right? A lot of people have been talking a lot about it. And, so we're going to start off with the thought leadership type of explanation of, digital transformation. We have our special guest, which we are so lucky to have. His name is Jared Powell, and he is probably in the top 5 in the whole country of partners in his company, behind digital transformation and thinking different and innovating. We are so lucky to have him here. We'll define digital transformation. We'll talk about digital foundation, which is a little bit different, and then we'll talk about optimization, innovation, approach to modernization, and summary. So we feel confident that when you leave today, you're really going to get a great understanding of how businesses are going to move, from the old brick and mortar type of days to the new and the new wave of the future, which is really digitally transforming everything, putting stuff into the cloud. And so I think we're going to have just an absolute great show. So, for the thought leadership portion of this, I'd like to just kind of, briefly touch on change. Change for a lot of people is very difficult. And I can tell you a personal story of my father, who keeps getting Microsoft updates, and being an 86 years old, he keeps calling me like I'm his personal IT partner, right? And he keeps just yelling at me over the phone. Why do they keep changing? Or why do I have to do this? Or why can't I just do X, Y, and Z? And then I explained to him, hey, well, the change is really for security purposes, and that's why we're doing some updates for you, right? Or change is good because now you can do things more efficiently in change. But for a lot of people, change is difficult. So I challenge the members of the community that are on this particular broadcast to take a step back in your daily lives and do something every single day that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is a change in your routine, maybe. Adopt something new, learn something new, learn a new technology. Take one of the ideas that we talk about on this particular program and try it. Utilize it, do something. So, we like to say with our partners on another call, leaders talk about, or leaders do what they talk about, and dreamers talk about what they're going to do. So by having you on this call, I could say, I think confidently, that many of you are leaders because you're looking to change and to do different things. So thanks so much for listening to that, thought leadership portion. Let's go ahead and introduce you to one of, a dear friend of mine, an absolute leader in the industry, somebody that I can't say enough about. His name is Jared Powell. Jared, could you please introduce yourself? Tell the audience a little bit about what you do, what your background is, and other things.
You bet. Thanks so much, Sherman. Appreciate you having me here. And like Sherman said, my name is Jared Powell. I'm the founder and chief technology officer of Infinite Consulting. We've been in business for about 10 years now, and I've spent my entire career in technology. Actually kicked it off at Microsoft back in when I was like 20. I'm 40 today, so 20 years in the technology industry. My focus really today is specifically on digital transformation and disruptive IT and technologies, and how I can help customers kind of bridge that gap and go out and do amazing things and as well as just kind of keep up with the pace of change in the industry today. And that's been my focus really for about the last 6 or 7 years.
Great, thank you so much, Jared. I think we invite you to our Worldwide Partner Conference, and you speak on behalf of the wave of the future. So I think this is really great to have you on. I really appreciate it. So I think what we want to do here is, before we get into this next slide of digital transformation defined, I want to open this up for Q&A. We have a Q&A function here, and Jared has been delightful enough to say, hey, he's open to whatever questions you have. So please, let's start putting them into the Q&A function. It makes for a great broadcast. So while we're doing that, let's get into digital transformation defined. A lot of people have a lot of different notions of this. I want to put this back on Jared and say, Jared, please help us understand this first before we get going.
You bet. Digital transformation is it's a big topic, and in fact, if you search the internet for the definition, you're going to find a lot of different definitions of digital transformation. Whether they're right or wrong is not necessarily for me to say. I think that time will tell. They all kind of focus on a similar topic, though, and really, if you look at first kind of what's driving a lot of digital transformation, it's just the pace of technology and society's how they've embraced it has really outpaced organizations' ability to adapt and change. And that's put us in a situation where you're essentially forced to transform the way that business is done, because the way that the consumers and society at large leverages technology has changed buying behaviors. And so if I were to define digital transformation in my own words, it's really the realignment of existing or the implementation of new digital technologies in an integrated manner that help drive efficiency from an operational perspective at the organization, as well as new business models. And whether that new business model is maybe a new service that you're going to offer, a digital service, for instance, or an entirely new business model that goes out and is just a new way of doing things. It depends, but it also involves people and the organization as much as it involves technology. So it's as much as anything, I think it's a mind shift and a different way of thinking about doing business. And really, it's targeted at driving a better overall customer experience. And when I say customer, that can be internal or external. So that's employees, partners, suppliers, vendors, as well as traditional customers. And that's what it means to me is really more visibility through the organization and just experimentation and doing business really with a lot more agility and at speed.
That's really great. I think that's a great way of explaining it. It's not just internal; it's external. It's speed. It's change. I think it's grasping, the brick and mortar type of stuff, right? I mean, if you think 10, 15 years ago, people were still, writing on pieces of paper. We still have businesses that are writing on pieces of paper, right? And not fully embracing, how do I become more efficient, right? How do I make more money? How do I reduce cost? And that's kind of where I think digital transformation really goes. So you have a great quote, I think, here. I'll let you handle this next slide.
All righty.
From Joseph Schumpeter, I think, right? If we can just, we'll go backwards. Okay. Creative destruction, I think, was it.
Yeah, so creative destruction was a term really coined in 1956 by Joseph Schumpeter. He made this term popular. It actually was a Marx comment originally, and he studied Marx extensively. But creative destruction is really economic innovation theory introduced by Joseph in the 50s, but it describes the industrial evolution or revolution that incessantly revolutionizes the economy, the economic structure. Incessantly revolutionizes the economic structure from within, incessantly destroying the old one and incessantly creating a new one. And the reason why I state that is what's happening today really isn't unlike what was happening back in the Industrial Revolution. It's very much the same thing, and it's similar anyway, and it's certainly creating probably more disruption. And the biggest difference is the pace of change is happening much more rapidly today than it was then.
Oh, that's really interesting on that. So, and I guess the next one really is, about defining it. So I think we look at, and if you want to pull this one up here, in your own words, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, so the definition you see here is what you would find if you went out and looked on Wikipedia. So digital transformation refers to the changes associated with applications of digital technology in all aspects of human society, which is absolutely true. And when I think about that, that is talking about digital transformation as it pertains to humankind, I think, in general. What we're really going to be talking about today is more business transformation. And as I stated, what that means to me is really realigning digital technologies or implementing new digital technologies that essentially create outcomes that help you be more agile and help you be a lot faster than we were, 5, 10, 50 times faster, that really drive a better overall customer experience, and again, customer being both internal and external.
Great, thank you very much. All right, so why don't you go ahead and drive from now on here. I know that we have the IDC up. Maybe you can just explain what that is.
Yeah, so the IDC essentially does a lot of research studies and in-depth studies on stuff like digital transformation, on cloud computing. I've read and been a huge study of their stuff on the third platform, and the third platform really being kind of a lot of the drivers behind what's created digital transformation. A lot of the technologies there were innovative and disruptive technologies that essentially made a significant change in how we go out and interact with businesses, how we procure products, how we shop, how we get rides, so on and so forth, how we book travel or vacations. And so they do a lot of research around that, very similar to like Gartner and Forrester's. And I believe that a lot of their stuff is the way they outline it. I think it just makes sense to me. So,
so if we take a look at the slide, we'll go ahead and put this up for everyone because I think this is really important. Why don't you drive from here?
All right. So this is a study that IDC did on cloud computing, but by 2020, I mean, if you look at some of these numbers, they're just they're almost mind-boggling. But at how much managing cloud services will exceed $500 billion by 2020, and that's a significant increase from what it is today. That's probably, gosh, tenfold. I don't know. It's a lot more. It's a lot more. And so if you look at that on a curve, it's quite steep. Innovation capacity is really the DX economy operating at scale. It will be primarily driven by code, and this is definitely true, and it will be driven by businesses embracing that code as well. And so, and I think we've seen that happen. If you look at a lot of the technologies from the stuff that Microsoft's put out to Uber, Amazon, it's all really code-related changes, and oftentimes it's a better integration between those applications that help you drive automation in your business.
So yeah, let me just ask you about the innovation capacity piece of it. So in the past, 20 years ago, a company would write their own software from the ground up, right? So, and you'd go buy a box, right? And then you'd install it, and then hopefully you'd call them, and they would help you put it in there. But that was pretty much it. That was what you bought. But when you reference code, you're referencing developers going into existing products and services and actually manipulating that code to make their products work better and faster. Would that be correct assumption?
That is correct, yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's really a decoupling of code to a server, really. I mean, managing servers is really kind of a thing of the past. Not to say that servers don't exist, they do, but to go out and purchase a server and put it in your office would really just not be all that efficient in this day and age, and it will become less and less common. I mean, you still see a lot of that today, but you certainly won't. I would guess 5 years from now, you probably won't. I mean, Infinite, my company, hasn't had servers, in our offices in 8 years. And so next up, IoT, Internet of Things, or Internet of Everything, as some people like to call it, is obviously a big hot topic. And this number is just crazy considering where we're at today, which is just nowhere near that number. 22 billion devices will be deployed by, I believe it was 2019. The date's not on here, but I believe that was a prediction. And the development of 200,000 new apps. And really, I mean, that's staggering if you think about the amount of data and information that's going to drive. And again, that's a lot of what drives this digital transformation is the amount of data and what you can do with it and the predictive analytics that you can get. really, essentially, you start putting all that together and connecting these systems, you're able to drive the absolute best experience to the customer wherever they're at on any device that they're on, whether they're, inside or outside of your company. It doesn't really matter. You can touch them in some way, and IoT is going to even, enhance that even more, as well as everything it's going to do from a predictive maintenance on systems, and also updates to, for instance, devices in your house, if you have smart home devices or anything of that nature. Data. So data is obviously, I think a lot of what we see today, Sherman, is driven by data, and the explosion of data is already massive. Add 22 billion IoT devices to that mix, and then the amount of data that we get from social and just kind of digital exhaust, if you will, is everywhere, and so data is really about analyzing that, and the amount of data, if you look at that number, data out will increase by 500-fold, is a pretty huge factor, and so then figuring out what to do with all that data is big, and that's kind of really where advanced analytics come in. AI, go ahead.
On the data thing, what I think a lot of people don't understand, or maybe it's tough to conceptualize, because it's still even tough for me to conceptualize, is the way we did business. So let's say you're, a tire shop, right? And you basically, people would come in, you'd place ads. People would come in, you'd give them a tire, reset their tires or their brakes, whatnot, and they would leave, and you'd advertise, boom, boom, boom. You'd have a certain set of data points, and you'd be asking the newspaper who's doing the advertising, well, how many readers do you have, right? 3 or 4 or 5 different things. But with the Internet of Things, and I heard that there's more Internet of Things sensors than there are sands, grains of sand. Around the world, and just think about that. That's unbelievable, right? But now you have data from all different sorts. I mean, you have data, internal data. Where are your websites that are being tracked, right? Who's coming in? Who's going out? What are your employees doing? You can track everything, and then that's just so much more. Just exponentially, right? You went from riding a bicycle to someone saying, "Hey, let me put you in a Ferrari and get you on Le Mans for 24 hours." Would you agree with that kind of assumption that it's so much? There's been an explosion right now.
100%, 100% agree. And to be honest, people are trying to figure out what to do with all that data. And let's put it this way: most people haven't figured it out. I think some organizations have, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to figure out. But through systems like Microsoft has developed and others, it's getting a lot easier to look at that data and create actionable items from it. I mean, data without insight is basically worthless, and insights without action is totally worthless, right? And so what you have to do is take that data and turn it into insight that then turns into something that's actionable, and whether that's customer engagement, improving your overall employee experience, or whatever the case might be, improving a product, so on and so forth. That's really where everything's heading, and I think that you'll see great strides in that area over the next couple of years that make it a lot easier for really any size company to leverage the sheer amount of data out there to do better things.
Great. All right, so let's move into the last couple of things you have on this particular slide. I think the next one was digital distribution.
So digital distribution is really just, it's about being able to scale up your supply chains and your channel. And I mean, if you look at this, the IDC is predicting that digital distribution is going to increase as much as 100 to 1,000-fold. And so that begs the question of how are you going to accomplish that? How are you going to do that without transforming your business into an agile machine that's capable of doing that, right? And that is not just a technology shift. That's a way of thinking shift, and that's a people thinking differently about how they approach and use technology inside their business. So the digital facade is really about price compression more than anything, and it's essentially enterprises overhauling their front doors at the end of the day, and the reason why they're doing that is because they have to support so many more customers. 1,000 to 10,000 times more customers and customer touch points than you see today, which is, I mean, that's hard to even conceptualize, but that's where it's going, right? So.
Yeah, and I think back in the day, remember, I don't know, back in 1996, I remember if you didn't have a website for your company, you were like, what are you doing, right? You're not a serious company.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think today, if you don't have an app for your company, what are you doing? And are you really investing in your future? I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I mean, social sites. Are you leveraging social listening? A lot of this stuff it's much more inexpensive today than I think most people probably are aware, and not nearly as hard to do. A lot of that stuff's built into products like Office 365 or Dynamics 365, as well as other products out there. And so, yeah, I think that you need to have a powerful, social presence. You have to have obviously a powerful website that's designed for a mobile first mindset, and you absolutely, because of the mobile, you need apps. You really need apps, and touch points create money and drive customer lifetime value as well. I will say that. So
yeah, and that's great. That's a great point there. Hey, help us understand the DX market perspectives. So as we're trying to build a case here, just for everybody, so we kind of understand. We're giving you the base model of this information. So please help us understand DX market perspectives.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what this slide's really talking to is just to give you an idea of the sheer growth and where things are going. And if you think about things in terms of where we are today, this is wild growth, like growth that really I don't think that we've ever experienced, period, in human history. If you look at where the market's going, I mean, $22 trillion by 2019 in DX, 60% more than today. That's pretty massive growth. That's massive ramp. 2020, 75% of cloud services revenue will go through the channel or brokers, and so that could be companies like mine or people that are just brokering cloud services, so on and so forth. And I think largely the reason why that is the case is because people also need help implementing those solutions. And then there's no question that the market is becoming very vertical oriented, and just because obviously if you specialize in a vertical, you can offer something special and unique to that vertical. And you see that in my industry as well. A lot of partners that weren't vertical 5 years ago are vertical today, and that's worked out well for them. So.
That's great. Hey, we got a question here, and this is great. Joy Moss from Gem Internet Ventures has a question, and we're not trying to tell you that we know everything about everything here. So if we can't answer this question, we'll just let you know we can't, but we'll find out the answer and we'll give it to you. So Joy says there's a lot of websites that may still be on 128-bit encryption. To make sure your information isn't hacked, how can we make sure our information is 256 or higher encryption rate?
Well,
what were your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have an end-all be-all answer in that. I think that I might need a little bit more information to answer that. But you could start with, where was the security cert purchased, and make sure and just replace the security cert with a cert that has 256 or 1024 or 2048 encryption. All those are certainly you can certainly go out and get those. So I think that really, it starts with an assessment of where you're at. Why are you using that? Is there a reason? Are you locked into it? Is it legacy? Can you replace it without breaking something? Those are all questions that probably need to be answered first, and then it's just a matter of going and getting the new cert, which is the easy part probably in the equation. But.
Oh, that's new. I learned something new just with that answer, so I appreciate that. All right, so there's 3 stages of that we're talking about that are going to impact the future of technology. And I really, what we're going to do here is now now that we've built the case and we've kind of talked about all the things that are changing, and hopefully we didn't, give you too much anxiety that everything is changing so fast, but it is. So Jared, help us understand the 3 stages that will impact the future of technology, please.
Yeah, you bet. Did I?
Yeah, so go ahead and push one more up. You're fine. All right. So I think the first stage was digital foundation services.
Yeah. So digital foundation services is really, for me, that is about, number one, self-awareness. And so the very first thing you really need to think about in terms of any DX strategy, when I say DX, I mean digital transformation for short, is really self-awareness. So where are we at? And where do we want to go? So, and that involves a lot. So, and that oftentimes starts with the customer experience, and mapping out your customer's journey from end to end. And there's an interesting stat that 70% of CEOs don't know their full end-to-end customer journey. And so that's really important to map out, because you're going to be integrating systems and investing dollars in making that experience better. So you kind of need to know what it is. And then for Infinite, it is empowering employees. That could be HR self-service. It could be learning management, getting them up to speed on some sort of DX type of a program at the company to help them self-educate and get in kind of the new mindset and start to shift their way of thinking. And then a big part of that really for us is your foundation. And so it's putting in core foundational services, and for Infinite, that's all Microsoft cloud-based services. So if we go in and look at a customer, for instance, we're going to assess their environment, and the first, one of the first steps we're going to take is get them into the cloud, and that for us is going to be Office 365, EMS, Azure, Dynamics if it's a fit, and that kind of sets them up in this foundation to grow on. That they now have this baseline of cloud services that are easy to integrate, to help them get to the next step. When you start getting into, and then it's also basic digital intelligence, or mostly it's identifying gaps in your digital intelligence. And so where do we not have reporting that we need based on this customer journey that we want, and then doing maybe some light integration on those systems. And that's all part of our digital foundation services, and really kind of your first step into digital transformation. And like I said, a lot of that's assessment and planning, and then baseline cloud services, so your stuff operates like a utility.
Yeah, so I think it's baseline and planning, and it's deciding to adopt, right? Adopt the different change and do that. Now, Jared did mention a lot of different Microsoft products, and I do want us to share that there are a lot of other products and services out there that can be fully integrated, accounting softwares, right, or ERPs, but it's about a foundation that ties together. Okay, setting yourself, getting yourself into the cloud. All right, you mentioned optimization services next.
Yeah, so and optimization services is really just kind of the next step in that evolution. So now once you have your kind of everything's operating like a utility, like a cloud service, and to your point, it really can be any cloud service. The main point is that make sure that they integrate on some level, and so the information can flow through the systems and ultimately end up in the category we're talking about now. So optimization services is largely about optimizing your processes and automating things where you can, right? So if there's an opportunity to, something takes a lot of time and it's a people-driven process and there's an opportunity to automate it, then you should automate it, because ultimately that's going to save, drive down costs, help you be more efficient, more agile, and just help you do better things. And then also focus your people talent where it matters most, right? Instead of on these other tasks. And then a big chunk of that is, obviously your workflow and your process optimization, but it's starting to add now more intelligence on top of that as you integrate these systems. Data is now starting to flow. You're set up for more success, and now you can start feeding that information to other parts of your organization. Customer service is a great example of that, to just provide superior customer service, and maybe that's an omni-channel type of approach to how you're touching your customers, as well as on the support side, your touch points, right? Leverage social to let people come to you for support, leverage chat as well as your website and email, and the more areas that you can touch a customer, the better it is at the end of the day. And then also kind of measuring the overall satisfaction of your customers is key in that process too. And so it's coming up with methodologies on how do we actually measure the sentiment from our customers, and how are they feeling about our brand or the services that we're delivering. And in large organizations, leverage social media a lot for that. If you're smaller, maybe you're doing it through a combination of social and assessments to your customers, or however you go about it. So
the next one is transformation services. Can you help us understand that?
Yeah, you bet. And so transformation services is now you're optimized and you're essentially ready to go. You're operating lean and mean, and so this is now when you get into really experimentation, not having fear of failure, and figuring out new business models or new routes to market or new services that you can offer, digital services most likely, to change your industry and to generate more value for your company and capture more market share.
That's great, and that's why I really wanted to have you on here. Is we feel here at Microsoft that this particular strategy is incredible. It's fantastic. It really kind of helps the people that you talk to understand. Okay, foundation, optimization, transformation. That's great. All right, so people are afraid of change. We know that. We had the story earlier about my dad. He's afraid of change. He really is. So tell us, please. Using those three different touch points, how do you approach that within the digital foundation piece? And I'll let you drive it from here on.
All right. What did that?
So I think the first one will be, situational awareness.
Yeah, so, and we touched on this in the foundational services, but really situational awareness for us is that's self-knowledge and market knowledge. So what do my customers want? How do my customers feel today? What is their ideal outcome? And you shouldn't be afraid to go direct to your customers and ask them. At the end of the day, that's what we've done at Infinite is we'll invite customers in and ask them, what do you want your experience with us to be? I think it's fine to think that you know, but oftentimes you don't know, and the answer will be quite different. So, and then it's what is the competitive landscape? What are the market dynamics? Who's doing it well in your industry? Who do you view as kind of the thought leader that has transformed and looking and dissecting what they did and ways that you can maybe adopt some of that and do it better? And then understanding, your customers and what changes that you make will have a positive impact on them, not a negative impact, obviously. And then it's self-knowledge. I think that there's a lot of self-evaluation things that happen in this process. There's the areas of what parts of our business model are still relevant and what parts aren't. And what do we need to change, or where is there an opportunity for change? And then there's a lot of education, internal education that needs to happen on kind of disruptive and digital technologies. And that's where companies like mine can help with that. Microsoft has tons of content on it. IDC has tons of content on it. But certainly educating your internal groups is a big part of your situational awareness. So, and again, it goes back to understanding where you are before you start heading down the road to get there.
Great.
And then a big part of that is also, I guess I fast forwarded there a little bit quick, sorry about that, but is really a technology assessment. So as part of kind of situational awareness, you're identifying gaps and especially looking for legacy systems that you're going to replace. A quick example there, FCC replaced 2 mainframes pretty recently that took up 80% of their budget. They weighed a ton apiece. By replacing those 2 mainframes, they freed up 30% of their budget just from that alone, right? And then also added a lot of agility. And I guarantee you, almost every company out there has some legacy stuff that needs to go, and they would gain efficiency just from that. So it's not always about new technology. Sometimes it's about getting rid of old.
I bet you they freed up a ton of space.
That too. Yeah.
Those big mainframes, were probably 20 by 40. Right,
tons. So yeah.
And they took them to the scrapyard and got some scrap things. So one thing on what Jared's saying here, and this is to the group here, it's not just about. It's really showing you the approach on how holistically you should be looking at things, right? It's not one way or the other, but it's holistically. This is how you would approach it. So you have to think about disruptive technologies and different things. So I'll let you get into the Internet of Things. I think this is really interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, Internet of Things is certainly a lot of buzz right now. It's been implemented very widely, but not nearly as widely as we're going to see. I think that you're going to see Internet of Things just really take off. And if I think about the things that are good about the Internet of Things, it's really making technology work for you. And leveraging your devices in smarter, more efficient ways. And so, say you're a manufacturer, that might be you're building in some sort of predictive type of maintenance type solutions and automation there, so that either they're predicting or telling you when you have a problem, so you can address that problem quicker. Also, smart home devices. I mean, if you think about it, I can control my whole house right now from my cell phone. Right, I can set my alarm. I can see what my dog's doing. I can water my plants. I mean, the whole thing's connected, and that brings us to the bad, I guess, as well. But you'll see that get even more crazy. Is, I mean, if you look at most cars these days, all this IoT is built into them, and that's good for a number of reasons. And that updates can also happen. So from a security perspective, keeping stuff up to date is obviously important. Some of the issues, though, today is there's some issues with some of the Bluetooth technologies and things like that some IoT devices use, and so there's been privacy and data security issues in some cases. I think the biggest issue is really lack of an overall standard in IoT so they all connect the same way, because that could drive up costs significantly to get this integrated kind of approach to it. And then there's what do we do with all the data? So you go deploy 20,000 IoT devices, that are going to feed you data, you better know what to do with it. So, and I already kind of went over a couple of the examples with predictive maintenance, and a quick point on enhancing the customer experience is one of our clients is a cosmetics company that is looking at leveraging IoT to understand when customers are in their area so that they can then use social to get them into the stores, but then also recognize when they're in the store via facial recognition what their preferences are to be able to make better recommendations for the type of cosmetics that they want, which is pretty insane. I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's actually quite scary, right?
A little bit.
I mean, it has just changed significantly with that. Let me get over to here. So I think the next thing that we wanted to take a look at was advanced analytics. And because you have a lot of information that's coming down the pipe now, right? You can literally monitor every person walking into your store. At what time do they walk into the store? What is the most number of people at what hour, right? Who's buying what? When are they buying it? Where are they buying it? What shelf are they looking at the most? Holy smokes. So with all that data, I think that comes into advanced analytics. Help us understand that.
Yeah, so I mean, advanced analytics, and we've touched on some of this, but I think this quote sums it up pretty well. Without big data analytics, companies are blind and deaf, wandering out onto the web like a deer on a freeway. And that might sound extreme, but it's so true, because the companies that are harnessing the power of advanced analytics are outperforming their competitors by significant amounts. I don't have the exact number, but it's like 26 to 30%. So they're just kind of owning them. Good analytics provides essentially a GPS perspective on what opportunities are ahead, if there are any problems that you need to address, and you get this, this complete awareness of what your customers want, what your internal employees want, what your business is doing, how your financials are doing, how products are performing. I think that we can all agree that having that sort of data at your fingertips on demand in real time would allow you to make much better decisions. And that's really what I think advanced analytics is about, is the ability to have the data you need to make the right decisions and know if you need to pivot and go a different direction, so on and so forth. Some of the bads of analytics is, I think one of the bad parts is it's going to define the winners and losers at the end of the day. The people that do it well are going to win, and the people that don't do it well or don't do it are going to lose. And that's just, I think, that's already been evidenced by what we've seen in the marketplace today. The other big challenge is it's complicated. How do you handle it? There's overall lack of expertise in the industry to a certain extent, and so that's been a challenge. But overall, you'll make more informed and better, better targeted approach at your customers by leveraging this, and significantly boost your cross-sell, upsell opportunities, as well as identify issues before they become major problems.
Yeah, and I think with if you're not thinking about advanced analytics, if you think it's too complicated, I would suggest that you really should start boning up and learning about it. Because if you're not doing it, your competitor is doing it. Because what does it do? It provides an edge, right, Jared? It provides an edge on your competition if you're figuring things out. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, couldn't agree more. I mean, the reality is that if your competition is doing it and they have this great analytics, they're going to provide a better customer experience. They're going to attract better employees. I mean, it's just the way it is, because they're armed with the data to make better decisions. So. Great.
All right. So with that, now I love how this is kind of just building. It's a foundation, right? You're talking about this. Next is artificial intelligence. I would say kind of scary sometimes, So help us understand that one, Jared.
Yeah, and AI to a certain extent is a little bit scary. I've went off on a few rants about AI, but the reality is that I also think that if they would have named artificial intelligence something else, it wouldn't be as scary as it seems, because of all the shows. It's kind of like Jaws, to a certain extent. And so, they're going to work the way that we design them to work at the end of the day. And it's not a single technology. It is a big collection. When you start talking about AI, you can go pretty deep down the rabbit hole. It's, AI is machine learning. It's predictive analytics. It's all these technologies. It's bots. It's robots, all coming together to really, enable automation of tasks that no longer require human labor. I mean, you see factories today that are 100% automated with bots and robots, and that's all done through AI and machine learning. A quick example of what AI and machine learning can do is, J.P. Morgan, they used AI and built a program called Coin, and essentially they can do now in seconds what used to take 36,000 hours a year of lawyer time to do, reviewing loan agreements and contracts and ciphering through all of that information. They essentially train an AI to do it, and it's more accurate and it's faster, and they never take days off. So that's all good. And I also think that AI can help us solve some of the more complex problems in the world, and really improve, the overall, do things for the social good and improvement of government operations if done appropriately and properly, right? There's obviously, it can have an impact on jobs potentially by eliminating jobs replaced by humans. Historically, though, that hasn't been the case. So innovation has usually created more jobs. Obviously, this sort of thing, you're going to have somebody that has to watch the AIs and the robots and stuff like that. So that's a job. There's somebody that has to help run them. So I don't think that there's going to be this mass exodus of people suddenly out of jobs because of that, because I think that by and large they'll be doing stuff that at least here in America we've gotten away from doing anyway, so where possible. Now when you see Amazon automating an entire grocery store and there's going to be nobody in it, I guess that offsets some jobs, but it also creates jobs too, right? And so I think there'll be a balance there. And some of the and then there's the whole thing around, I know a lot of governments, especially in the EU, are writing legislature around AI and ethical AI practices and things like that. So I think that we're really setting up to use the technology properly. And if done correctly, I think it'll be a great benefit for all of us.
That's great. Why don't we get into AR and VR? What does that stand for? Those are acronyms.
Yeah. So AR and VR, so that's augmented reality and virtual reality. Okay. For me, well, they're both very exciting. I mean, if you think about it, there's stuff going around. You'll be able to buy, front row seats to your favorite basketball team, for instance, and watch it in VR with a camera sitting there. There's actually already companies selling that sort of thing, but I think that will become, much more common. And for instance, I wouldn't fly up here at 5 in the morning. I'd just be a little VR sitting here in augmented reality talking to you guys. And so that's another. And this stuff is not. This is happening today. If you look at what Lowe's did actually in conjunction with Microsoft in their design center, where you put on a HoloLens and design a full kitchen. That is the future. I think there's no question that your interior design, home builders, but there's a million applications for it. If you want to get the thrill of what it feels like to drive a race car, you can. A lot of companies are now using AR, and especially augmented reality, to train people on how to service Teslas, for instance, is done all through AR. So the whole training program for their techs happens in AR, and it drove down the number of mistakes made and really helped them increase how fast they can certify people with a lot less mistakes, which is great. Some of the issue is, and they're talking about too, AR and VR, that it'll be a bigger impact to society than the internet was, which I don't doubt it once it's in kind of full force and it's mainstream. Some of the issues are content's lagging behind in gadgets, and to a certain extent, some of the advanced technologies like HoloLens are so advanced we're waiting for businesses to catch up and figure out how to use them. So.
Yeah, I think that is very interesting. There's several different virtual reality sets out there. I've used the Ball. Some are augmented reality, and it's very interesting. But I do know that at least personally, my eyes, there's kind of eye stress after a while being so immersed in that. But I hope it doesn't turn out to be 10, 20 years from now everyone's just plugged in and nobody's actually going outside, to like a game or something like that, right? That would it'd be terrible.
That'd be a bummer.
It'd be a total bummer, but I do I'm looking forward to putting on the augmented reality and be able to have all of my products, my office products, and doing business and just typing in the air. That'd be kind of cool.
No, it would, and even from a meeting perspective, being able to. I don't know, about. My workforce, at least, is highly, that we're spread out all over the country. And so we do have 2 offices, hardly we're ever in them. And so we do meet virtually, but it'd be cool if you were actually there in person, kind of a more, in-person type of feel to it. So that'd be good.
Yeah. So hey, let's get through tactical and strategic planning. I think that's now that we've built this foundation. Okay, now what do you do? And then we'll have to move right along because we've got a few more things to cover.
Okay. And so I'll try and fly through some of this at this stage, really you've established and executed a get well plan. You've identified and understand your end-to-end customer journey, and then you've put in a digital foundation to set you up for success. And you've started to implement advanced business analytics and a business management philosophy, which I think is important that you have one, whether that's like the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, or the 4 disciplines of execution, whatever or 40X is how they refer to it. Whatever the case may be, having one and only one is pretty key. So it's going to help you in this kind of approach, this structured approach to DX that you need to take. And then you've established a new vision and strategy and execution plan, and ideally gotten your workforce on board with that. It is definitely an everyone job, not a one-person job, and needs buy-in from leadership.
So this is what the go-dos would be, right?
Yeah.
For the actual, people who might be listening on the call today, or anybody really who's looking to provide digital transformation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do have this presentation up for you to download. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much information we're talking about today, I can completely understand that. So we have that for you, and also Jared will be available for you to talk afterwards. So. We've heard this word optimization so much. Everyone's talking about optimize this, optimize that. Can you help us understand, how you think of optimization?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, really, optimization is just what it sounds. It's leveraging. So in the context of what we're talking about today, it's really leveraging data from these existing systems that you've now integrated to establish better business outcomes at the end of the day, better customer experiences, to streamline processes so you can do things faster, to replace stuff that's holding you back, and just to ensure that your legacy business is now operating optimally and it's transforming, and you're able to then ideally free up some cash flow to reinvest back into the future. And one of the big points of optimization is, as you free up, ideally some of that capital is if you look at Chase today, for instance, 40% of their budget is on innovation and not on maintaining old stuff. It's on investment in new stuff so that you can keep up with the pace of change. And a lot of digital transformation and what we're talking about in business optimization is to help you become agile enough and fast enough to keep up with the pace of change. Digital transformation is not a destination, it's a journey. And it's a journey that you'll continue to take over and over again, because technology innovation is not going to slow down.
Well, that's a great explanation with it. So, innovating is a conceptual idea, right? A lot of people say, I'm going to innovate this, innovate that. I want to be different. Help me understand your approach to innovation.
Well, and you're right. And I think oftentimes innovation is used incorrectly. I hate it when I hear stuff like our goal is to innovate, or I'm a chief innovation officer. I mean, I don't even know what that is at the end of the day. I mean, really, you're that cool? I mean, that's a little bit like saying you're an innovator is a little bit like saying you're like Einstein. I'm the next Einstein, right? And so maybe I think people should really say our goal is to go and solve this problem for these people, right? To me, and then if you do that and your peers judge you, the people you respect judge you as that being innovative, then you're an innovator. But that's kind of how I view innovation in a nutshell. But there's also different types of innovation, and to a certain extent, you're innovating in a small capacity with digital transformation. So you're essentially innovating your business inside your business so that you can go out and create better outcomes for your business and better outcomes for your customers. And that's really achieved through a couple of different ways. But there's evolutionary innovations, which are basically incremental changes. So all this technology now has gotten to the point where if you implement it all, the incremental changes help you make an evolutionary innovation. And then there's revolutionary innovations, which I think you hear Uber thrown out a lot as one of those, and that's more of a disruptive innovation. The iPod was a disruptive innovation, for instance, and Windows was a disruptive innovation back in the day. And so that's how I view it. In this context, it's really about anything's possible now that you've gone through this process. And so what outcomes do you want? What do you want to do? How can you go out and change your business model to be able to sell more, or can you go global? I think that what a lot of people are doing with DX is globalization, true globalization, not just operating multiple companies, and then leveraging kind of the shared services model to be able to do more with less. And to a certain extent, I know a lot of small businesses are afraid of this, but I've always viewed digital transformation, the third platform, and cloud as leveling the playing field versus kind of offsetting it, because you, even as little with access to the technology that you have now, even if you're smaller, you can still use that technology to go out and just do something absolutely amazing that changes your entire market or potentially the world.
Great. So, one of the things that I wanted to kind of just highlight here, and let's take out, the products per se, or specific names of products. But what I thought was really interesting is how, the approach to digital transformation is a journey. And To be fair, that there might be some products or services that are mentioned here that might have to do with Microsoft, but we also want to make sure that you understand that it's not about just Microsoft, because there's other things that can be put in here, right? So please help us, understand your thoughts on the transformation journey.
Yeah, and so the transformation journey that you're looking at here is really something that we at Infinite essentially designed and created based on experience of going in, and we've been implementing cloud services since almost their inception. I was trying to do outsourced database hosting in 1998, so I kind of had cloud in my blood from day one. So this was natural when this came around, and through several iterations of going out and deploying various cloud solutions at our customers, and then seeing digital transformation come up and embracing that wholeheartedly, this is our 6-step digital transformation journey that we came up with. So this is the prescriptive guidance that we use when we go out and do an engagement with the client. It's also what we use to transform ourselves. Now, we're not transformed. As I said, it's a journey, not a destination, which is why we call it a journey. So this is an iterative process. And by and large, we kind of went over some of these in previous slides, but step one is really your health assessment. Where are you at? Where are your financial systems at? Where is your technology at? And putting in your digital foundation so that you set yourself up for being able to integrate your technology stack. You can get to a digital technology stack, and data can start flowing. And it's also where you're kind of assessing any gaps in your workforce and getting people trained up. Step two is when you go into start leveraging that data and creating financial scorecards and identifying any technology vulnerabilities, which might be legacy systems. So that's not necessarily like there's security issues, but it's areas that are going to hold you back. Let's find and eliminate those and get everything operating as close to a utility as we can. Securing up your backups, infrastructure, endpoints. And so really a lot of that it's about getting healthy and getting to a point that you can be successful in a DX journey. And step three is where it starts to get interesting. So now we're going to go out and we're going to put in the technologies that need to be in place in order to get this fully integrated digital stack of technologies. So, and then we're really going to start leveraging this technology to start changing the mindset at the company to get them, when you start, this is all well and good, but when you make it real for that company, when they can see the reports and statistics that start coming out of that, and they can see the impact that it has on the customers and the visibility that it drives, people start to get excited, and ultimately through this process we're also looking for change agents inside of the organization. I think that's very important. Ideally one from each department is ideal for us, which usually you get. Sometimes it does take till about step 3 before the light bulb goes on. But a lot of the first 3 steps for us were very similar to what we'd follow in going out and putting cloud solutions in for clients. Step 4, you really get into modernization. So now we're starting to talk about workforce mobility and really kind of tying in your reporting together. So you'll have a technology scorecard, an operational scorecard that will also have some workforce analytics on it. What are your people doing, and why does Sue perform so much better than Joe, for instance, and what is she doing differently that makes her more productive, and how can we make Joe more productive based on these stats, so on and so forth. And then step 5, you just kind of continue up the stack where you're improving your analytics, you're improving your intelligence, and you're delivering and working on delivering a better overall customer experience. And we list some of the tools we use. Again, these could really be any technology that you're going to use to do these. It's just important that that you identify technologies that are easy to integrate. You don't want to paint yourself into a corner. And then 6 is really outcome-driven innovation, and that's where you have predictive analytics, and your business processes are innovative. But with the predictive, you kind of have this roadmap and this GPS of where you need to go, and then full digital workforce management, so you can provide prescriptive guidance to your workforce around, or even on a whole. If you're a CEO, you might approach that a little differently than maybe a manager would, but you can see what's happening in your organization that creates change and creates better outcomes. And again, this is something that you essentially, when you get to the end, you kind of go back to the start. And one thing I do want to make clear is that it's not quite as cut and dry as step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Different parts of your organization are going to be in different layers of this at any given time. So oftentimes you would start with, like, for instance, transforming the customer experience, because that's probably going to provide the most value initially. You increase sales, increase revenue, but it quickly needs to go to other areas of your company. Operations maybe is not the most exciting thing to go out and go, okay, we're going to make this, transform this and make it digital. It's maybe a lot more work, but it's certainly worth it once you kind of have done that work and have the automation there to operate leaner and meaner and do things faster. So.
That's fantastic, and I think that the not deal per se, but one of the things, the agreements that we have is being able to share this information to small to medium-sized business. You can take a look at that digital transformation journey, and you can take a look at and assess your own, your own business, and ask yourself, okay, well, have I checked off A, B, C, and D, and E, F, G, and whatnot. All right, so let's go back to the summary right here. What we learned today is really fantastic. We talked about digital foundation, we talked about business optimization, innovation, strategic planning, and really kind of setting yourself up to move on into the future here. I know we had a lot to talk about today, and you can always come back to this particular link and go ahead and replay it. We'll have it available for you to redo it. But I really, I think we've been really fortunate because, with having Jared here and the way that he thinks about digital transformation, it can help, small to medium-sized business conceptualize as to what they need to do. We're afraid of changes we don't know. Now, hopefully, you have an idea, a plan, right? A plan in place to do that. The other thing, too, is when we talk to Jared and all of our speakers here at the SBA, another one of our agreements is for Jared to be available to anyone who has watched the show or is watching the show. And if they have questions about digital transformation, it's a safe place to call. So you can call Jared at his office, 408-213-5060, or email him at jpowell@infiniteconsulting.com. He will take your questions. There won't be any hard selling on here. That's kind of part of the agreement that we have with them. We're really here just to help. So hopefully you loved the show today. Hopefully we were able to help you understand technology, understand the future of technology. And let's kind of go back to the thought leadership portion of this call, which is, hey, do something that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, once a day or once a week, okay? Start the change process. Maybe do that for a couple weeks and then start looking at your business and do something in your business that might be a bit disruptive, right? So let's go ahead and back to Jared. What are your final thoughts here? And I think you had one more quote slide, which I think is really great.
Yeah, so number one, just we did cover a lot of information today. I could have probably easily done an hour on each one of those topics, no problem. At the end of the day, and some of those are topics that require that kind of a deep dive. So feel free to reach out. Happy to help with whatever I can there. And this slide is I think Brian Solis coined this, and he's a blogger that I read quite a bit. And digital Darwinism is the evolution of consumer behavior when society and technology evolve faster than your ability to adapt. And I mentioned that at first. This is kind of what's driving digital transformation. And then, one parting thought, a quote that I like from Abraham Lincoln, which I think applies to what's going on today, is the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew, act anew. That's that.
I love it. Thank you very much, Jared. We really appreciate it. Just to wrap this up here, my name is Sherman Crancer from Microsoft, Senior Partner Channel Development Manager. You can go ahead and contact me at scrancer@microsoft.com, Twitter at Sherman Crancer, or join me on LinkedIn. So once again, just want to say thank you to the Small Business Administration out of Santa Ana as well as New York for sending our link out to small to medium-sized businesses out there. We look forward to seeing you every single month. It is always the first Tuesday of every month. And next month, we are going to have a great program. We're going to be talking about how Microsoft and the SBA work together. It's really fantastic. Please join us there, and we'll send out another invitation for that. Anyways, thank you, everyone, for coming today, and appreciate it. And have a great afternoon. Thank you.